Y'all remember when you had that kind of energy? No? Come on now. Maybe. All right. Our reading comes from the Gospel of Luke, the 19th chapter, verses 1 through 10. I invite you to hear the reading of God's holy word. If you would stand, please. He entered Jericho and was passing through, and there was a man named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and rich, and he sought to see who Jesus was, but could not on account of the crowd, because he was so small of stature. So he ran on ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for I must stay at your house today. So he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, he has gone in to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will restore it fourfold. And Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house, since he also is a son of Abraham, where the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. We owe Luke a debt of gratitude for, in this dramatic story, he capsulizes for us the mission of Jesus, of what it was about, and of what it is about, and how we as the church in turn ought to view what we do and what we are about. Do you remember the song you sung when you were little? Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. He climbed up in a sycamore tree to see what he could see. And I don't remember what the rest of that was. Who remembers it? Say it louder, Annie. For I'm going to your house today. For I'm going to your house today. So the part that I lost was as he passed that way, he looked up in a tree to see what he could see, right? And he said, Zacchaeus, you got to point your finger at somebody. Zacchaeus, you come down, for I'm going to your house today. So how many of these people that we remember today taught us that song? Do you remember? Lots probably, right? They taught us a lot of things. And memory is a wonderful thing, isn't it? And probably all of us know someone who's suffering with dementia or Alzheimer's, and we've seen what a horrendous disease. There are some differences between those two. I'm not sure medically what it is, but basically both of them creates a situation to where you lose your memory. You don't know who you are. You don't know who the people, maybe your spouse or your parents or your children, who they are, and it's worse on the caregivers than it is on the person that's sick, right? I mean, I've got a friend, Joe, whose wife has dementia, I think it is, and she's not said his name in about 5 years now. She knows who he is, but she doesn't call him Joe. She calls everybody else by name, but she hadn't said his name. And he says to me, you know, Danny, she hadn't said my name. And that hurts, doesn't it? It hurts when we lose that capacity. It hurts when we lose that relationship. And so, as we remember those who taught us this story and other stories like this, we do so with grateful hearts for the gifts that they taught us and shared with us. So who was Zacchaeus? Tell me who Zacchaeus was. He wasn't just a tax collector. He was what? A chief tax collector. What does that mean? You got any idea what that would mean? He was what? He was high on the ladder of hierarchy. That's right. He was over a whole region. He would be like, you know, if you were, what was it that James said a while ago? For customer service, was that how you put it? If he was in customer service, he would have been the area manager of the corporation that you're working for customer service for. He was a big dog, as they would say, or as we would say. And what else do we know about him? He was short. And what else? Somebody said it, I think. He was rich. He didn't just have some, but he was rich. This is the only place in the New Testament that the term chief tax collector is used. And so while he's rich in material goods, what do you think his life is like in terms of socialization and those kinds of things? Probably poor. And that's a really good guess. Because he had pretty much, we think, alienated or ostracized, whatever words you want to use, to everybody else. He probably had no friends. He probably had some servants at home that mumbled under their breath, wishing he would fall off, you know, the top of the house and break a leg or something. But he had people around him. But we feel sure that he probably didn't have anybody that was his friend. Do y'all remember just a few years ago, we had a situation go on in our world. It was called what? Like 4 or 5 years ago? COVID-19. And they asked us, when they let us back out, right? They asked us to do something, to stand 6 foot apart, and we called that what? Say it louder. Social distancing. So on Monday nights, one of the guys that bowls in the league down there where I bowl, he had gotten an 11 ball. Do y'all know what an 11 ball is? You play pool? What color is the 11 ball? No, it ain't yellow. That's the 9, isn't it? It's red and white, yeah. And he had got the 11 ball for his 10 pin. Now, if you know anything about bowling, so I'm going to turn away from you. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And for a right-hander, the 10 pin is the dreaded pin, right? If you leave a 10 pin, it's supposedly the hardest pin to get for a right-hander, and likewise for a left-hander, the 7 pin would be the hardest to get. And so my friend Jerry had gotten this 11 ball, you know, for the 10 pin, And he had told me a few weeks ago, he said, I'm going to throw that thing in the river. And I said, well, don't do that. And so I pull up one night, and he's just getting there, and he's unloading a bunch of balls. And he said, you said you wanted this 11 ball? And I said, yeah, I'd like to have the 11 ball. And he said, well, it's no good for a 10 pin. It's social distances from the 10 pin. What was he saying? He can't get the 10 pin with this 11 ball, right? It's social distances. It stays away from it. It would not have been a funny thing for Zacchaeus, but everyone would have social distanced from Zacchaeus. If they saw him walking down the street, they would have gone and got on the other side because they didn't want nothing to do with this wee little man. The chief tax collector. He was the chief source of their pain every time they had to come up with the money for the taxes. And of course, as a tax collector, he reminded them not only that money was coming out of their pockets, but he reminded them that they were having to give homage to Rome. And in their mind, no one except God should be the king, and certainly not Caesar. And so there's this long history of people and tax collecting and all of this stuff as they've been under the purview, if you will, of the Romans. And so he was not popular. And certainly the Romans didn't collect the taxes, but rather collaborating Jews like Zacchaeus. And of course, they had sticky fingers, and some of the taxes that they collected would, strangely enough, remain with them instead of being turned into where they should have been. And so just suffice it to say that Zacchaeus would not have been the favorite person of those gathering. How many of you go to parades today? Some of you? When Magnolia has a parade, our driveway that goes in between the church and to the back of the house, it comes off of the street that the parade goes by, and people line the street on both sides. And so if they're having a parade and we know we need to leave, we have to leave before the parade gets started. People are kind enough to get out of our way if the parade hadn't started, to get out of the driveway so we can leave. But if the parade's already started, what happens? We're stuck, yeah. And we can drive out the front if we're in the truck or whatever, but it goes that street as well. That's their return avenue. And so we can be stuck there. And so I remember as a young person, parades were fun, but now parades remind me that I have to pick up all the leftover trash from everybody being there. And so it's not something that's a lot of fun as I think about it. But, Zacchaeus, he probably would not have normally gone to the parade, but because, he's the chief tax collector, right? And here's a mob of people who have to pay the taxes. And so he could very easily become the focus of frustration, and, they could go after him. And he's a wee little man, right? So he's probably not going to be very easily defending himself. And so, but nonetheless, on this particular day, Zacchaeus ventures out to the parade. Now, why do you think he might have decided to literally take his life in his own hands and go out among all of these people who he purges money out of? No, not today, I don't think. That's a good guess. So he could see Jesus. Now, what does he know about Jesus? People are talking about him. It's what he's heard, right? And what has he heard? What has Jesus done? He's been preaching. Healing. Give me an example of that. The blind. What else? The sick. Leprosy. Demons. The cripple. Right? And so here's Zacchaeus, who's got all of the stuff, but is miserable in his life. And he's heard all of these things that this Jesus fella has been doing. And you got to think that Zacchaeus is thinking, I wonder what Jesus could do for me. So he goes out to see, and you know, he's kind of like this, right? He's trying to see, but everybody's in the way, and he can't see. And so what does he do? He runs on ahead, climbs up in a sycamore tree to see what he could see. And it happens that as Jesus gets there, he looks up in the tree and he says what? Zacchaeus, you come down, for I'm going to your house this day, for I'm going to your house this day. So maybe some of us are miserable this morning. This is always a hard day for me. Because even though it's almost been 22 years, I loved my daddy. He used to tear my tail up. But I loved my daddy. He told me when I was a little bitty fella, he said, Dan, I'll walk with you through the fires of hell. I just ask that you tell me what we're going there for, so I know why we're doing it. But I'll always stand beside you. There's always folks around us who are hurting. I mean, my heart's sad. And that's a selfish thing. I wouldn't have my daddy back to suffer like he did the last year of his life for nothing in the world. And so it's my selfishness that I'm missing. I still think I'm going to call daddy and ask him how I ought to do this. And I'm like, can't do that. By the way, if you still got your mom and your daddy, call them this afternoon and tell them you love them. Better yet, if you get to them, go by and see them and tell her you love them. My mother's just like we butt heads. We're both hard-headed, but I love her. I love her. Even though she's stubborn, I love her. There's folks around us who are hurting, who are running ahead, climbing up in the sycamore trees of life, trying to figure out if there's a way that they can find relief from the pain and suffering, from the turmoil that's in their life. And Jesus is looking at them, and he's pointing his finger at them, and he's saying, you come down, for I'm coming to your house today. He wants to come into our hearts. He wants to bring us the healing and the wholeness that he has for us. But we have to leave our place of safety. We have to leave our place of fortitude, if you will, and come down to allow him to come in. It's no secret. Everybody's got skeletons in the closet. Everybody has hurts and everybody has pains. You know, those people who tell you they don't hurt, they never have any problems, well, they're just lying to you. I mean, that's all there is to it, because everybody has hurts and pains. Everybody. So we as the church, we claim to be a place of we call this what? This room is called a what? A sanctuary. Used to be called a what, Danny Ray? What was this room 50, 70 years ago? It was a gym. It was a gymnasium, right? Auditorium? Or I thought it was the gym. All right, but it wasn't the sanctuary, right? It became the sanctuary. The sanctuary means what? Holy place, right? A place set apart for the worship of God or for a special function. We have a bird sanctuary, right? We as the church, we claim to be disciples of Christ, which means we are followers of Christ, right? And as followers of Jesus, we're to live our lives in such a way that others will see in us and know the presence of Christ. It means we're to be compassionate and joyful, humble. Any of those y'all have problems with? I have a lot of problems with humility sometimes. I'm pretty good with joyful, and I'm okay with compassionate. Patient, out the window. That's probably my number one thing that I have a problem with. You know, the old guy said, Jesus, give me patience and hurry. That's not even, I mean, I do a shortcut to tell him that, right? I think it's, we, as followers of Jesus, are called to be his witness. And there are those who are watching. Just like I said to y'all the other day about Alice when she said, you didn't do this. Y'all remember? Y'all weren't here that Sunday, were you? So Alice was the only kid that was here. She came up, did a cartwheel, and did a back bend. And I said, oh, I've already done that. And she said, no, you didn't do this. 15 weeks that Sunday it was. 15 weeks. And she remembered that I got up on my head, but I didn't get my hands down. And that 6-year-old remembers that. And you need to know that there are people out there who are watching us, who are listening to what we say and watching what we do, and they remember. And like Zacchaeus, they're looking for the opportunity to find health and wholeness. And we are one of the avenues as the church of Jesus Christ. We're one of the avenues that they can do that. So it's important that we are intentional and careful about who we are and what we do. Zacchaeus was lost. He had the stuff, but he was lost because he didn't have any friends. He probably didn't have any family that would have anything to do with him, because if they did, that ostracized them, right? And so he's lost. He's lonely. And Jesus, he found out, was where that could be turned around. We need to remember that there's those who are out there that are lost, that are lonely. And we, as followers of Jesus, need to offer Christ